Have you ever ignored a warning and paid the price? A group of students, eager to explore, embark on a journey into a mysterious forest that holds dark secrets beyond their understanding. They are warned, but they laugh it off, thinking it's nothing more than an old superstition. But soon they realize that the forest is alive with a dark, ancient force, and their only hope for survival lies in something they overlooked, a simple act of prayer. As the shadows close in and the air thickens with fear, will they survive the horrors lurking in the dark, or will they fall victim to the terror that awaits every soul foolish enough to wander without protection? The adventure begins, but remember, never travel without praying. Subscribe, watch, like, and let me know which country you are watching from in the comment section. Let's go. The night before the school trip, Daniel couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, too quiet. His fan spun slowly, creaking at every turn. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees like voices murmuring secrets. He tossed and turned, trying to shake the feeling crawling over his skin. Tomorrow was meant to be exciting. His class was going on an educational trip to a wildlife park. Everyone had been talking about it for weeks. But now, lying in bed, Daniel felt cold, even though the night was warm. That was when the dream came. He was standing on a long, narrow road, surrounded by thick trees. The sky was dark, with no stars or moon. Ahead of him stood a bus, its doors open, engine humming softly. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. The road stretched into blackness, and the trees seemed to whisper. Then he heard it, his mother's voice, distant but clear. "Pray before you go. Promise me. Pray." He turned, trying to find her, but saw only shadows. He stepped onto the bus, and the doors slammed shut. Everyone inside had no faces. He screamed. Daniel shot up in bed, soaked in sweat. His heart thudded like a drum in his chest. The dream was too real, too loud. He looked at the clock. 4:03 a.m. Footsteps approached. His door opened. His mother stood there, her eyes sleepy but alert. "Are you okay?" He nodded, wiping his face. "Just a dream." She walked in, sat on the bed beside him, and placed her hand on his chest. "Your shake's nothing." She looked into his eyes for a long time. Then she whispered, "Before you leave tomorrow, make sure you pray. Please. Promise me." Daniel rolled his eyes. "Mom, come on, it's just a school trip." Her grip tightened. "Daniel, I don't know why, but my spirit is not at peace. Just do it for me, okay?" He sighed. Okay, I'll pray." But deep down, he had no plans to. Morning came, and the sun painted gold across the sky. The house bustled with excitement. Daniel rushed through breakfast, grabbed his bag, and ran out. His mother followed him to the gate, holding a small Bible in one hand. "Just a short prayer, Daniel. Just 1 minute," she begged. "I'll pray on the bus," he lied, laughing with his friends across the road. Her voice rose. "Daniel, don't joke with prayer." But the bus had arrived. The students cheered, climbing aboard. Daniel waved lazily at his mom, then stepped onto the bus. The door hissed shut behind him. His mother stood at the gate, her lips moving in silent prayer, eyes filled with fear. The bus rumbled to life and rolled out of the neighborhood. Inside, the students laughed, shared snacks, and played music. Daniel sat by the window, earphones in, trying to forget the dream. The sky was bright, the road clear, everything looked normal. But then, just after they left the highway, the bus driver took a turn no one expected. "Where is he going?" Daniel whispered to his friend Kemi. She shrugged. "Maybe it's a shortcut." But Daniel knew all the routes to the park. This wasn't one of them. Trees began to rise on either side of the road, thick, tall, and too close together. The sunlight faded fast, like the forest was swallowing it. The air inside the bus changed, heavy, quiet. Even the students noticed. Conversations slowed. Music turned down. "Sir, are we still on the way to the park?" one student asked the driver. The man didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the road. "Sir?" Still nothing. Daniel leaned forward. "This isn't the right road." The driver said in a low voice, "This is the way I was told to go." "By who?" Kemi asked. He didn't answer. The bus pushed deeper into the woods. 10 minutes passed. The trees now covered the road completely, like a tunnel of darkness. There were no signposts, no birds, no animals. Just the sound of tires on cracked gravel and the growing silence. Then someone at the back shouted, "Hey, there's no signal." Everyone checked their phones. No service, not even emergency calls. Daniel's heart began to pound. He looked at the driver again. The man was sweating, eyes wide, gripping the steering wheel like he was afraid to let go. Then someone stood up. A very old man Daniel hadn't noticed before. He wore a long brown coat and sat near the back. With a voice like dry leaves, he said, "You should have prayed." Everyone turned. "What did you say?" a teacher asked. The old man looked at Daniel, directly into his eyes. "You should have prayed." Daniel's mouth went dry. He remembered the dream, the whispering trees, his mother's voice. The bus came to a sudden stop. No one had touched the brakes. The road ahead had vanished. "Is this part of the trip?" one student joked, trying to break the tension. No one laughed. Outside, the forest stood still. Not a leaf moved. It was like time had frozen. "Sir, please take us back," a teacher said, approaching the driver. The driver didn't respond. His eyes were glued to the dashboard. Daniel looked around the bus. The old man was gone. Gone. He jumped up and ran to the back. No sign of him. His seat was empty, like no one had ever sat there. Kemi whispered, "I don't like this." Daniel felt something cold crawl up his spine. He reached into his bag for his water bottle, and instead found something else. A small note. His hands trembled as he unfolded it. In dark red ink it read, "You were warned." The silence inside the bus was heavy, like a blanket soaked in fear. No one moved. No one spoke. The road ahead was gone, swallowed by darkness and mist. Trees towered on both sides like ancient guards. The air felt strange, thick, almost too thick to breathe. Even the teachers didn't know what to say. Daniel clenched the note in his hand. "You were warned." He stared at it, his heart racing. Who had put it in his bag? When? And where was that old man? "He was just here," Daniel whispered. "He was sitting right there." Kemi looked at him. "Who?" "The old man, the one who said we should have prayed." Kemi's face turned pale. "Daniel, there was no old man." "What?" "I swear, no one was sitting there." Daniel turned to the teacher near them. "Miss, did you see him? The old man at the back?" The teacher hesitated. "What old man?" Daniel stood up, eyes darting across the bus. "He was real. He looked at me. He spoke. But nobody remembered him, not even the driver. That's when the bus engine started by itself. No one touched it. The driver gasped and grabbed the wheel, trying to switch it off, but it kept humming like it had a mind of its own. "Sir, turn it off." A student shouted. I'm trying," the driver stammered. With a hiss, the doors shut. The lights flickered. Then, without warning, the bus moved forward slowly, into the darkness where the road had disappeared. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He turned to the window and saw nothing. The forest outside was no longer made of trees, but shadows. The leaves no longer rustled. The light no longer existed. It felt like they were traveling inside a dream, or worse, a nightmare. The students clutched their seats, confused and afraid. Some tried to call their parents again. Still no signal, no GPS, nothing worked. One of the younger students began to cry. Another started praying softly in the corner. A girl began to shout, "Let me out! Let me out!" banging on the bus door. The teacher pulled her back, trying to calm her. "I think we're being led somewhere," the driver muttered. "By who?" asked the teacher. The driver's eyes were wide and glassy. "A voice in my head. It's guiding me." Daniel froze. "A voice?" "Yes, it's telling me to keep going." "Stop the bus," several students yelled, but the driver didn't move his hands from the wheel. "I can't." The bus passed beneath a low archway formed by twisted tree branches. It felt like crossing a line between worlds. Suddenly, a figure appeared outside, a child, standing by the trees, pale, motionless. Daniel gasped. "Did you see that?" "See what?" Kemi asked. "There was a kid outside." She looked. "There's nothing there." Daniel shook his head. No, I saw someone." Moments later, the same child appeared again, this time on the other side of the road. Then, again, closer. Kemi grabbed his arm. "Daniel, what's going on?" "I don't know, but we're not supposed to be here." Then came the voice. A soft, echoing whisper, as if coming from inside everyone's head. "You entered without prayer. Now you walk the road of no return." Everyone on the bus looked around, panicking. Some covered their ears, others screamed. The whisper came again. "You were warned." The lights inside the bus exploded, one by one, shattering in sparks. The windows fogged up. The bus screeched to a halt, even though no one touched the brakes. This time, the doors slowly opened on their own. Nobody moved. The teachers tried to count the students. 31, 32, 30, she paused. "Wait, someone is missing." A boy named Ifeanyi was gone. "But he was right next to me," said his friend. "He was just here." His backpack was still there, his shoes, but no sign of him. The teachers rushed up and down the aisle. The students called his name. No response. He had vanished completely. Daniel's chest tightened. This is not a normal forest. This is not a normal place. They tried calling for help, but their voices were swallowed by the trees. It was like the sound never traveled. Another student whispered, "We're being hunted." Kemi looked at Daniel. "Pray." "What? You heard what that thing said. We entered without prayer. Maybe that's why this is happening." Daniel looked around at the terrified faces. His heart thudded. His mother's voice echoed in his head. "Just a short prayer, Daniel. Just 1 minute." And he hadn't. The bus doors still stood open, as if daring someone to step out. One teacher made the decision. "We're walking back. Everyone off the bus." The group filed out quickly. The air outside was colder. No wind, no sound. Just trees and thick silence. Daniel looked behind. The bus had vanished. "Where's the bus?" Kemi whispered. They all turned around. Gone. Just forest. A few students started crying. Then something moved between the trees. Tall, thin, watching. Daniel's mouth went dry. "We need to pray." "But how?" Kemi asked. "What do we even say?" Daniel's voice was shaking, but he began, "God, please, help us, forgive us, show us the way out." The group stood frozen. Then a soft breeze stirred. For the first time since they entered the forest, something felt alive. But then came the scream. A loud, painful scream from deeper in the woods. Another student was gone. Panic broke out. The group began to run, but no matter which direction they went, the trees remained the same. It felt like they were running in circles, the same twisted root, the same fallen branch. Daniel tripped and fell, landing beside a small object half buried in the dirt. It was Afani's watch. Still ticking, he looked up. The shadow figure stood in the distance again, closer than before, watching, waiting. The air whispered again, "Only those who pray will see the way." Daniel stood, clutching the watch. "Everyone, stop running," he yelled. "Pray, it's the only way." Some students dropped to their knees. Others kept running, blinded by fear. Daniel held out the note again, the red letters almost glowing now. "You were warned." The deeper they went into the forest, the more unreal everything became. Daniel led the group now, holding the glowing note like a compass. It pulsed gently in his hand, warm and strange, almost alive. Around them, the trees creaked and moaned like they were speaking in a forgotten language. The mist wrapped around their ankles, clinging like fingers that didn't want to let go. Behind them, more students had vanished, 2 boys and a girl. No one saw them go. 1 minute they were walking, the next, gone. Daniel turned to the teacher. "We can't keep moving blindly. We need to pray." "I agree," she said shakily, holding her chest. "Everyone, circle up, now." They formed a small circle in the forest clearing, hands clasped, heads bowed, voices trembling. "God, please help us," Daniel began. "We didn't pray before, but we're praying now. We're sorry. Please lead us out." Kemi joined in. "Forgive us. Show us mercy. We don't know where we are or what this place is." The others added their whispers. One student sobbed quietly as she prayed, then silence. Not just silence, emptiness. Like the entire forest was holding its breath. Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled. A crack opened in the earth just a few steps away. It wasn't wide, but it was deep, dark, endless. And from it came a sound none of them could ever describe, a low, groaning moan like something ancient and angry was waking up. "Back up, move," the teacher yelled. They stumbled away from the crack, just in time. A hand shot out from the hole, thin, gray and clawed, screams. Another hand followed, and then a face, sunken, hollow-eyed, covered in ash. "Run!" Daniel screamed. They fled, dodging branches and thorns, but the forest wasn't letting go. The path twisted, rearranged, trees moved, shadows chased them. Daniel looked behind. Kemi wasn't there. "Kemi!" he shouted. He stopped, heart thudding. "Kemi!" The group paused out of breath. "She was just here," a boy said. "No," Daniel whispered. "No, not her too." He turned in every direction. Nothing but trees. "I have to find her," he said. "No, it's too dangerous," the teacher said. "She's my friend. I can't leave her." Daniel took off alone, following his instincts. The note in his hand pulsed faster, like it was leading him. "Kemi," he called, weaving through the trees. "Where are you?" No answer. Just the whispering of the wind and something else, crying. He followed the sound until he found her, huddled against a tree, eyes wide with terror. "Kemi," she looked up. "Daniel, don't come closer." "Why?" she pointed. Behind the tree was a shape, tall and robed in black, its face hidden, its arms stretched toward her but not touching, just waiting. Daniel raised the note. It glowed brighter. The figure hissed and shrank back into the shadows. Kemi scrambled to her feet and ran to him. "How did you know where I was?" "I didn't. The note led me." They hurried back together, rejoining the group. But they were fewer now, fewer than before. 10 students, 2 teachers. That was all. Then the forest changed. All at once, the trees bent backward, forming an archway over a narrow stone path. A flickering light appeared at the end, like a lantern in the distance. "What is that?" one student asked. "A way out?" another hoped. "No," Daniel said softly, "it's a choice." They moved toward the light slowly. Every step felt like a test. The forest hissed, whispering temptations. "Don't go. There's nothing for you there. Stay forever." But the closer they came to the light, the less power the voices had. Then they saw it, a small chapel, old and glowing gently, standing in the middle of the forest. It wasn't there before. "How?" Kemi asked. Daniel held up the note again. The words had changed. Now it read, "Only prayer unlocks the door." They approached the chapel. Its door was shut tight, but no one dared knock. Then Daniel stepped forward and said a simple prayer. "Lord, we are lost. We were foolish, but we believe you can save us. Please, open the door." The door creaked open. Warmth spilled out, sunlight, fresh air, birdsong. The group didn't wait. They ran inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, everything vanished. The trees, the fog, the whispers. They were standing beside the school bus again, in the real world, back on the regular road. The sun was up. Cars passed by like nothing had happened. Daniel looked around. Some students gasped, others cried. One teacher fainted. Daniel held up the note. The glow was gone. It now said one final thing: never travel without praying. Then it crumbled to dust in his hands. But something felt wrong. He looked at the bus. Only 10 students, 2 teachers. They had left with 36. Only 12 returned. The morning sun rose over the road, casting long shadows across the bus as it sat quietly at the edge of the forest. But the students weren't sure if the sun was enough to make them feel safe. They stood in small groups, looking at the bus, at each other, and then at the empty seats. 12 of them had returned. 12. But there had been 36 of them when they first started. 24 were gone, lost to the forest. "I can't believe they're gone," Kemi said, her voice trembling. She stared at the empty seats in the bus, as if she could somehow will her friends to return. "We don't know what happened to them," Daniel replied, though his own heart felt heavy. "They might still be out there, we don't know where." The group stood in stunned silence, the weight of what had happened pressing on their shoulders. Suddenly, the teacher, Mrs. Okoro, called to them. "Everyone, get on the bus. We need to go back to school. We'll sort this out later." But Daniel hesitated. Something wasn't right. He had seen the way the forest had changed, how it seemed to pulse with something dark. He felt a cold weight in his chest, as though the forest hadn't released them at all. "I'm not getting on that bus," he said. "Not yet." "What do you mean?" Kemi asked, her voice full of confusion. "We don't know what we've escaped," Daniel said, glancing at the others. "We don't know what the forest is, or what it wants. We can't just leave. Not yet." "We have to go back," Kemi urged. "The others, they might still be alive. We can't leave them out there." Daniel felt his pulse quicken. "You don't get it, Kemi. The forest, it's not done with us. We need to understand what it really is, or it will never let us go." The others, unsure of what to do, gathered around. Some agreed with Daniel, while others were too scared to question what they had already survived. Mrs. Okoro stepped forward, trying to regain control. "Daniel, I understand you're scared, but this isn't helping. We need to get back to safety." "No," Daniel snapped, stepping back. "You don't understand. It's a trap. It wants us to think we're safe, but we're not. I saw the way it changed. The forest, the cracks in the ground. It's alive." "Daniel's right," Kemi said quietly. "I don't know how, but I felt it too, like something was watching us, waiting for us to make a mistake." The bus driver, Mr. Nwoke, looked up at them nervously. "I don't know about all of this," he said, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. "But we've all been through something strange, something we can't explain." Daniel's eyes narrowed. He had to figure this out. There had to be more to the story, something they had missed in the chaos. Maybe the forest wasn't just a place. Maybe it was a test. "Come on," Daniel said, his voice low but steady. "We're going back in." They turned back toward the forest. The path they had taken before now seemed clearer, more defined, as if the trees were welcoming them back. But as they walked, the feeling of unease only grew stronger. Every snap of a twig underfoot, every rustle of the leaves above seemed to hold a hidden meaning. It wasn't long before they saw something new. A figure stood at the edge of the trees, watching them. It was too tall, too still, and its presence felt wrong. It didn't belong in the forest. It wasn't natural. The figure stepped forward, its face hidden beneath a cloak of darkness. The group froze. A low, rattling laugh echoed from the figure. "Foolish," it said, its voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "You should have stayed away." "Who are you?" Daniel demanded, his heart racing. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it gestured toward the forest. "This place was never meant for you. It belongs to those who understand, those who know what the price is." "What price?" Kemi asked, her voice shaking. The figure finally stepped into the light, revealing a face, pale, gaunt, with hollow eyes that stared through them. "The price of forgetting, the price of ignoring what you owe to the world. You took something, and now it will take from you." Daniel took a step forward, trying to hold back the fear crawling up his spine. "What are you talking about? We don't owe anything." "Ah, but you do," the figure hissed. "You failed to pray when you should have. You ignored the warning, and now the forest will claim what is rightfully its." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and the trees around them groaned in protest. The shadowy figure raised its hands, and the air grew thick with the stench of decay. "Don't listen to it," Mrs. Okoro shouted, pulling the group back. "We need to leave now." But it was too late. The forest closed in on them. Branches twisted and reached out like hands, dragging them deeper into the woods. Screams filled the air as the students fought to break free. But the trees had a grip on them, strong and unyielding. Daniel's heart pounded as he tried to break free, but the darkness was all around them now. He couldn't see Kemi, couldn't see anyone. The only thing that remained was the figure's voice, growing louder. "You cannot escape," it whispered, over and over again. "You are ours now." Daniel struggled against the dark grip, but it was no use. He was being pulled under, pulled into something that wasn't the world he knew. Suddenly, the glow of the note appeared in his hand again. The same note that had led him through the forest before. He clutched it tightly and whispered a prayer, the words coming from somewhere deep inside him. "Please," he said softly, "please let us go." The dark figure hissed in fury as the light from the note blazed brighter. The trees recoiled and the shadows shrank back, but the price was still being paid. The forest had swallowed them whole. Every tree, every branch, every whisper of wind seemed to be watching, waiting. Daniel's grip on the glowing note was the only thing that kept him grounded in the chaos. The others, his friends, his classmates, his teachers, had been pulled deeper into the nightmare. Their faces pale and trembling in the light of the eerie, supernatural glow. "We have to make it stop," Daniel muttered, his voice strained. His breath came in short gasps as he looked around at the tangled trees, the shifting shadows, and the terrible force that surrounded them. The dark figure was gone, but its presence still lingered like a weight on their hearts. "What do you mean?" Kemi asked, her voice shaking with fear. She grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him closer. "How can we make it stop?" Daniel looked down at the note in his hand. The words that had appeared on it earlier, "Never travel without praying," burned into his mind. He could feel the power of the message as if it were a key to understanding the terror they were facing. But the fear inside him had grown so overwhelming that he wasn't sure what to believe anymore. "I don't know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But we have to pray. We have to believe in it, or we'll never escape this." Kemi nodded, though she wasn't sure what to believe anymore. She had seen too many things in the past hours, things that made no sense. The way the trees had moved, the way the shadows had taken on a life of their own, and the cold, ancient feeling of the forest that seemed to stretch out beyond the edge of their comprehension. "We're not going to make it out, are we?" Kemi's voice cracked as she spoke. Daniel's heart sank. He didn't want to say it, but the truth was undeniable. The forest wasn't just a place. It was something alive, something ancient, and something that demanded a price. The students who had disappeared, who had been taken, were still somewhere out there. Somewhere in the heart of the forest, lost to its malevolent grasp. And now, it was their turn. Suddenly, the earth beneath their feet trembled again, more violently than before. The trees groaned and twisted, as if they were waking up. A horrible noise echoed from the deep shadows, like 1,000 whispers, each one filled with malice. "No, not again," Daniel whispered, taking a step back. "We can't let it happen again." The ground cracked open, sending a burst of hot air toward them. The trees parted as a massive, twisted figure emerged from the shadows. It was the forest itself, a grotesque manifestation of the darkness that had been waiting all this time. "You were warned," it hissed, its voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "You cannot escape. You belong to me now." The figure loomed over them, its form shifting like smoke. Its eyes were pits of darkness, consuming everything in their path. The air was thick with dread, as if the very earth beneath them was screaming for help. "No," Daniel shouted, raising the glowing note in front of him. The light from it flared brighter, pushing back against the dark force. The trees around them shuddered and recoiled, but the figure didn't move. "We have to pray," Daniel said, his voice filled with desperation. "We have to trust that this is the only way." Kemi hesitated for a moment, but then she closed her eyes and began to pray, her voice trembling with the weight of fear and hope. One by one, the others joined her, their voices unsteady but filled with the desire to escape the forest's grip. They prayed for safety. They prayed for strength. They prayed for the missing students who were still lost in the shadows. The forest trembled as their voices rose in unison, echoing through the trees. The darkness around them began to fade, shrinking back with every word they spoke. The twisted figure shrieked in rage, but it couldn't stop the power of their combined prayer. The earth cracked open once more, but this time, instead of a sinister force, a brilliant light poured out. The light was so pure, so blinding, that the figure screeched in agony. The trees trembled as the shadows were pushed away, and the forest seemed to break apart before their eyes. As the light grew brighter, the group of students and teachers stepped forward, their hands clasped together in prayer, holding on to the one thing that could save them. The darkness was finally pushed back, and the forest began to retreat. "We're getting out," Daniel said, his voice filled with relief and disbelief. But as they walked toward the light, a strange stillness overcame them. The forest that had once seemed alive with malevolent energy was now silent, like a long-dead thing. The trees, though still twisted and dark, no longer moved. The air was heavy, but without the oppressive presence it had carried before. They emerged from the edge of the forest, their feet touching the familiar, safe ground. The school bus was still waiting for them, as if nothing had ever happened. The students climbed onto the bus, their faces pale and worn, but their hearts filled with gratitude. They sat in silence, the only sound the hum of the engine as it started up and began its journey back to the school. No one spoke as they drove away from the forest, but deep inside each of them, the memory of the night would never fade. They had escaped, but they knew they would never be the same. As the bus pulled away, Daniel looked out the window one last time, staring at the dark forest that loomed behind them. It was still there, still waiting, but the light of their prayer had pushed it back, if only for a while. The words of the note burned in his mind once more. Never travel without praying. It was a lesson they would never forget, because sometimes the most dangerous places weren't the ones you could see. Sometimes the most dangerous places were the ones you could feel, the places where the dark things hid, waiting for the right moment to strike. And the price for ignoring them was steep. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.